All right, gang, welcome to Rugged Outdoors Guide for today. I had a hard time deciding whether I was even going to do this video today. And the reason is because I think a bunch of you will probably get really ticked off at me. Some of you will totally agree with me. Others of you will get totally ticked off and write me all sorts of, hate comments and all that. I'm okay with that. Tell me you disagree, that's good. Just keep it somewhat civil, because if you say anything really nasty or you get really, really offensive, hard to do with me. But if you do, I'm probably not going to post the comment. It's going to end up in the trash. So just be civil. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me what the right answer is. All right. So now that I've got you all here, well, you kind of know what I'm talking about, right? Because you read the title. But really, I've come up with 5 of probably the dumbest eco-camping bits of advice that I've ever heard. So just to kind of fill you in with what's going on, over the last few years, kind of the whole eco thing, right? You guys know what that is, just ecologically sound practices and all that kind of thing, right? There's eco-camping and eco-tourism and all of that sort of thing. I just want you to know that I am very much in favor of the idea. I'm not some sort of, rogue kind of guy that wants to destroy the planet. You guys have seen my videos where I talk about God, right? Enjoy God's creation, keep on looking. Yes, I'm a person of faith, and as such, my Bible tells me that we need to be good stewards of this earth. We are put in charge of the earth, humans are, according to the Bible, and we need to be good stewards of it, which means taking care of it, not destroying it and polluting it and not caring what happens, right? I want you to understand that. That's where I'm coming from. The reason I say that is because I do have a few things that might sound a little contrary to that coming up. So it seems like in our world that's kind of going in certain directions, there's a real push for eco camping things, like eco everything, right? Eco cars and eco food, but eco camping. So what does that mean? Well, it means, the nice way to put it is, do things that are friendly to ecologically sensitive areas that might be negatively affected by certain practices, right? I just came up with that pretty good, huh? That's a good idea, but there are some things that are just a little bit overboard, in my opinion, and I'll just start right now. I'll get it over with. Send me your comments. We'll see what happens. One of the first things that I've come across, and by the way, I get this information from reading tons and tons of books. I have a library, insane library, filled with all sorts of books on camping and outdoors, and so they have chapters in them about this, and then of course online now it's just insane, the information you can get on eco-camping, best practices and techniques and all that kind of stuff. So number 1, what's the dumbest thing I've heard? Well, this is in no particular order, but one of them is, never let any of your food items touch the water. So presumably that means you don't want me to take, my leftover, fish and apple core or something and throw it in the water. Now, most of the time when you're up in northern Ontario or somewhere really remote, there's zero consequence to that. I mean, maybe you'll get a snapping turtle that'll come and eat the fish carcass as it settles in a couple of feet of water or something, and then it goes away. Not really sure what that's all about, but I will not just tell you why I think it's dumb. I'll tell you what I do and why. So what I do, I take my pot of whatever it is. I'll scoop out some water at the shore, and I'll just wipe around in there. Depending on what it is, I have different tools, a scrubber or whatever, or a sponge. Usually it's like oatmeal, and I'll swish it around a little bit in there. Then I'll take this that has a couple inches of water, and I'll kind of turn over, slightly to my left, and just do this. And it'll go probably 20 feet, maybe as little as 10 if I'm not feeling particularly strong. And that's it. You don't even see it. It's mostly water. Maybe there's a few flakes of oatmeal, but there's really no consequence to it. My scrubber, I'll just probably swish around in the water a little bit, and that's it. The water, the lakes and rivers and soil around where I go camping have a wonderful ability to compost and absorb everything, so that there is no trace of what you've done even days later, maybe even sooner. So that one, I don't know, I have a hard time with that one. It just kind of makes, I don't know, feels weird. I don't get it. Number 2, never bathe in the water. I'm not joking. I'm not saying that they say never swim, but they'll say never put soap on your body, right? Because they say that, it's ecologically sensitive or whatever. Well, most places, like 99.9999999, lakes and rivers around central and northern Ontario are not terribly ecologically sensitive. And even if there were hundreds of bathers putting on toxic chemicals, probably wouldn't really affect the environment. I'm talking, on a practical level, seriously. But conceptually, I understand that, and I don't practice toxic chemicals or anything like that. So I guess if you want to take a shower or soap up or whatever, the idea is that you're supposed to get one of those, heated black bags, one of the, portable shower. I don't really. I use biodegradable soap, and in my opinion, based on how many people I ever come across on these massive lakes up in northern Ontario, I'm not worried about jumping in the water with biodegradable soap. All right, that's just not an issue. Sometimes, however, I will just take this good old thing, scoop up, and just dump it over myself to get some of the soap off. Sometimes I just soap my armpits and places like that just sweat all the time, right? So I really don't. I don't really get into that, and I consider myself a fairly good steward of the environment. I'd like to think so, and still some of these things that seem to go just a little too far and it would make my life awfully difficult, or at least inconvenient. So anyways, that's the second one. The third one, oh, here's a good one. This is a good one. Carry your poo out of the forest. You guys may know there's a book that's called How to Shit in the Woods. And if that surprises you, I've got more where that came from. There are spin-offs of that. If you just Google it, Google that title that I just said, and you will find not only an original book that was written about this whole topic, which I used to have, but I ended up throwing it out because I just thought it was so off the wall and ridiculous. I just bought it because of, just out of curiosity, and I think they got me for that. Just even the title. I mean, I guess if they sell books just because of the title, that's probably they're successful, and so I bought into it. There's so many spin-offs on this. There's videos, there's other books, oh my goodness. Here's the idea that somehow your waste is going to really negatively impact the environment. Now depending on where you're camping, I suppose that's possible. I'm not going to be straight across the board here, but in most places, again, thinking of like the wilderness of Minnesota and the boundary waters, or in Wabakimi Park in northern Ontario, or anywhere else in northern Ontario. I mean, it's the size of bigger than Texas. Wherever you go, your poop isn't going to do anything. I mean, trust me, even if you wanted it, even if you were malicious and you wanted to destroy the environment, your waste, it's not going to do it. All right? So the idea is, though, that what they want you to do, what the book says, is to take your toilet paper and your poop and stick it into a ABS plumbing pipe. a couple inches in diameter, or 1.5 or 2 inches in diameter. First of all, I don't know how you're going to get it in there. I mean, I don't want to get into too much details, but poop comes in all sorts of consistencies, if you know what I mean. So it's just even reading that in the book, I'm like, what? So that's kind of weird and awkward. I think that's for really super hardcore environmentalists, maybe. I'm not hardcore. I'm just what I would consider fairly normal. And so that's supposed to be trucked out. And, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, those same environmentalists or activists or whoever, eco people, would say it's okay if a huge bear poops everywhere because somehow, that's natural. And same with the big moose and everything else. That's no problem. In fact, that can be just a fun afternoon out where you're looking around going, oh, look, there's bear poop here. Or look, these big old pile from a moose. And that somehow becomes like almost virtuous. And yet for a human, a little piece of poop is like, no, take it out, get it out of there. That's going to destroy the environment. It's not ecologically friendly. It's disgusting. It's going to pollute the area. It's going to destroy the vegetation. Whatever, I don't know what it's supposed to do. But see, that makes no sense to me. And so I just don't buy into it. I've been around long enough to know that poop doesn't last very long, and I'm mostly vegetarian. I eat what the bears eat, and probably even better in a sense. And so my waste isn't going to really do anything at all, especially if you bury it like you're supposed to, at least a couple inches underground. So what do? Well, I do actually leave camp. I don't stick around anywhere nearby. I'll usually go at least, depending on where I am, at least 100 yards, or maybe even as much as 200 yards, depending. I'll just go for a walk, like a short hike. And I'll follow the protocol at that point, which I think is reasonable, which is, a little cat hole kind of thing, and just a really shallow, I'll give it a shallow grave. And along that point, almost everybody says you're supposed to take your toilet paper out with you, even if you don't take your poop. Well, I'm not going to really argue the point too much. It's just not worth it. But I will say this. I've been around toilet paper long enough in my own life, camping and otherwise, where I happen to know that it doesn't really last too long. It won't last a season. It'll be gone, especially if you bury it with the really, really fertile soil that's in most forests in the Canadian Shield and through much of the northeastern US and Midwest. It's not going to be around very long. So I wouldn't get too worried and upset if you don't take your toilet paper with you. All right, number 4, just as weird and crazy. Here it is. Bring a container to carry out your compostable foods. I mean, that's the same as carrying your poop out, only I mean, if I were to rate it, I would say it makes even less sense to carry out your compostables. And, with every weird thing that I read about, I try to figure out what they're trying to prevent, or what's the point. I'm guessing the point is that if you scatter your food around the campsite or whatever, it'll attract animals and they'll get used to, like a bear or a wolf or something will come near to your campsite, and they'll get used to your campsite as being a place where they can find food. Well, I couldn't find any other reason. That's about it. And I'm thinking, well, if that's the reason, then there's lots of ways around that. First of all, you can chuck it, hundreds of yards away. Just go for a short walk, just like if you're taking a poop. Chuck your compostable, if you have anything, like what? What's compostable? Like you eat most of your food. If you bring bread or meat or sausage or crackers or granola bars, you eat all that. If there's garbage, plastic garbage, that's something you can probably pack out with you. It's not much. Like a plastic wrapper from, a Cliff Bar or something is not a big deal. It doesn't add to the weight or the space. So I don't have a problem packing that out. But in terms of compostable things, like what? Like an apple core or, fish bones or something. As far as I'm concerned, that's really natural, and so I would just chuck that. I might even chuck it in the water, hoping to see, maybe something come and grab it. I mentioned earlier about snapping turtles. whatever the case is. I just don't have a problem with those types of natural compostable products being virtually anywhere in the environment, because they're not going to last long at all. And if they do anything at all, it'll benefit the environment, in my opinion. Things that deteriorate and compost, that will be more beneficial than detrimental. So not really sure about that one either. Crazy, crazy things. Number 5, leave all natural things in exactly the same place that you saw them when you arrived at your campsite. I read a little bit more about that. I saw that on a couple of websites, and the idea is that you're supposed to leave dead wood. I mean, other stuff too, like living wood and branches and trees and grass and all that kind of stuff. But dead wood you're supposed to leave. So you can't, in other words, you really can't build a good campfire. Now, I personally believe that we can, most of nature actually, especially in the wildlands, is there for us to use responsibly. So we can, if there's grass that we need as a padding, I don't do this anymore, but I used to when I was a kid or a teenager, under my tent, I'd put some grasses, because I would take some grasses from over here and put them over here. I would cut them down. So what? I'm cutting the grass on my lawn, like, I don't know how many times a year, and it's like an acre. It's not a big deal. Grass tends to, regrow. So I don't have a problem taking some stuff, but especially dead wood. Now, I understand dead wood can't, once it composts, it'll add to the fertile soil and all that stuff, and it will. 99.99999%, actually more than that, of dead wood in the forest, even close to my campsite, will never be found by me, and it will turn into dirt and help the environment and the soil and all that stuff. But if I need some campfire wood, you're darn right, I'm going for a dead tree, and I'm going to hack it up and I'm going to use it. It's just, it's not even feasible for me to leave everything as it is and don't touch dead things. I suppose they mean don't even touch rocks, because that's a natural thing. So again, some of this stuff, guys, is just a little bit crazy. Now, I will say this. I just want you to know, I mentioned earlier that I am eco-friendly, but just not to this kind of crazy extreme. There are some really good things though, and some things that you really should kind of follow, and I do agree with. Like one of them, for example, would be try to minimize or don't even bother bringing plastic, like non-reusable plastic water bottles, for example. Don't even bother. Just have a good Nalgene bottle, and I don't even bring water at all. I just pump it and filter it out of the lakes. I tend not to go to lakes that have motorboats and lots of traffic and everything, so the water's pretty decent. So that is actually a good practice to minimize your plastic and all that. Some people really get into the idea of not having your own equipment, to either rent or borrow or whatever, so that you're not, I guess, adding to the manufacturing waste of all these things. I don't know, that's getting a little bit nitpicky, but I don't have a problem with renting a canoe if you don't have one and you only go once every couple of years or something. Yeah, sure, it's all good. So there are other things like like toxic chemicals, all right? So try to avoid those. Well, I do anyway, just because I'm concerned about my own health. So I don't bring, like my bug sprays, they don't have DEET. Now, I happen to know that DEET is a chemical that is what makes insect repellents effective. But I don't use it. I use citronella and stuff. It's not quite as effective, but I just don't like putting chemicals on my body. Sunscreens, things like that, I tend to stay away from. So I would probably agree, my philosophy would mesh with the eco people on that front. I tend to stay away from chemicals anyway, and that's probably good to keep them out of the environment, whatever, Just as a little by the by, it is true, you guys have heard, I'm sure, about, if all of humanity were to cease existing on planet Earth, how many years certain things would take to happen. And it's not long. I think I just saw a video the other day unrelated to what we're doing here, but it said something like in, I think it's 10 years, something like that. I don't even think it was 100. In 10 years, all of our cities would be overgrown. Nature would take over. Now, the structures would still be there, like big buildings and stuff would still be there. I mean, 10 years is nothing. But I can hardly believe it's that short, like for roadways and, you know, parks can spread and take over a concrete jungle. Apparently that's the case. And after 100 years, there's almost no trace. Like buildings apparently will have crumbled, at least that's what I've read, without any care. And eventually, you know, shortly after that, nature takes over completely. And I'm thinking, okay, so if I spray one little, you know, squirt of bug spray on my neck, is that going to destroy nature so that it can't recover? If it can take over entire cities in a decade or two, you know what I'm saying? So like, you just kind of balance things out and kind of see what makes sense, see what's reasonable or what's maybe just a little bit over the top. So guys, go ahead, tell me I'm an idiot and disagree with me. That is fine. This is an area where there is the ability to have a little bit of disagreement and still be civil. We're all lovers of the outdoors. We all do care to one extent or another about the environment around us. If we didn't, then, you know, we're not going to have it in however long for us to enjoy. If it keeps going, like in terms of development and all that kind of stuff, we you know, there is some thought that has to be given to this. But keep in mind, remember what I just said? If we step back and don't do anything, nature will take over. So the default of what nature does is to take over, not to recede. All right? Again, something to think about. But anyway, I would just say be responsible, be a good steward of what you've been given. And please do, guys, give me your likes and subscribes if you feel so inclined. If you hate me, that's okay. Give me your comments too. If I can answer them with a reasonable answer, I will. If not, I'll let somebody else respond to your comment. Just keep it civil and we can have a reasonable discourse. All right, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for putting up with my little tirade about the dumbest bits of eco-camping advice I've ever heard. And I do hope that I will see you shortly and you will check out what I have in store. I've got some neat ideas coming up this year. We're going to be doing a lot more videos and a lot more YouTube shorts. Check me out on Instagram. It's at Rugged Outdoors Guide. And of course, YouTube Shorts, we're starting to put those out quite a bit and you can see us there. Just go to our channel, check out our shorts. Some of you will just see one or two of my videos as they come across your path. Others of you will check out all of our videos and see the breadth of topics that I deal with. I love it when you guys do anything. Just thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope to see you again very soon. And as I always say, guys, don't get offended. Get out there, enjoy God's creation, be a good steward, and keep on looking up.